Today we are talking about social engineering. In the world of cybersecurity, technology often gets the spotlight, but attackers know the real weak link: people. This lesson is all about understanding the human factors that social engineering exploits, breaking down its techniques, and learning how we can defend against it. Social engineering thrives on psychological manipulation, how attackers play on our cognitive biases and emotions to bypass even the best technical defenses. Whether it's a phishing email asking you to act urgently or a friendly stranger casually asking about your company's systems, the goal is always the same: exploit trust to compromise security. Recognizing this makes you not just a defender of systems, but of people. As you explore this, think about your role. It's not just as a cybersecurity professional, but as someone responsible for shaping a security culture. And we'll cover key concepts, real-world examples, and actionable takeaways to outsmart social engineers at their own game. Let's get to the basics. What is social engineering? At its core, it's a tactic where attackers manipulate people rather than technology to breach security. Unlike hacking into a server, this relies on exploiting trust, emotions, and sometimes sheer curiosity. Imagine receiving an email that looks like it's from your boss, asking for login credentials, or a fake call from IT support urging you to reset your password immediately. These aren't technical attacks, they're psychological. Social engineering works because it targets our natural instincts to trust and to cooperate. What's scary is that this approach can bypass even the most secure systems if the human element is not trained to spot the red flags. Understanding this is step one in becoming an effective defender against these threats. Let's break down the psychological tricks attackers use. Authority, scarcity, and social proof are the big players here. First, authority. If someone claims to be in a position of power, a manager, a police officer, or even a CEO, it's human nature to comply without questioning. Attackers exploit this instinct shamelessly. And then there is scarcity. You've seen those limited time offer scams, right? The same principle applies here. Creating urgency makes people act before they think. Lastly, social proof. This is all about peer pressure. If it seems like everyone else is doing something, we tend to follow along, even if it feels off. By recognizing these principles, you'll start spotting manipulation techniques in real life and can train others to do the same. Now, let's get into the methods attackers love. Phishing is the most well-known. Fake emails or websites designed to steal sensitive information. Then we have pretexting, where attackers invent a story to gain trust. For example, someone might pose as a journalist needing details about your company. Baiting takes a different angle, offering something tempting, like a free USB drive, to trick you into compromising your device. And don't forget tailgating, a very low-tech but effective technique where an attacker physically follows someone into a secure area. These techniques sound simple, but that's their power. They exploit our assumptions and trust in ways that are surprisingly effective. Why does social engineering work so well? It taps into our cognitive biases, those mental shortcuts we rely on to make quick decisions. Attackers exploit biases like the authority bias, where we defer to perceived experts, or confirmation bias, which makes us believe information that aligns with what we expect. And then there is emotional manipulation. Fear, excitement, and urgency are emotions that cloud judgment. A well-crafted email saying your account will be locked unless you act now can trigger panic and lead to mistakes. And finally, there is trust exploitation. Humans are naturally cooperative. It's what makes us social beings. Attackers use this against us, crafting interactions that seem genuine and friendly. Understanding these psychological factors is the first step to building effective defenses. Let's talk about the phases that make up a typical social engineering attack. Understanding these steps is crucial because it allows us to spot and disrupt attacks at each stage. It starts with research. Attackers gather information about their target, and this might involve scouring social media, LinkedIn profiles, or even just dumpster diving for discarded documents. and they piece together enough details to craft a believable attack. Next comes the hook, where they initiate contact. And this could be an email, a phone call, or even an in-person interaction. The goal here is to establish trust or set the stage for the manipulation. And then we have the play, where the actual attack happens. For example, this could be convincing someone to click a malicious link or revealing sensitive information during a conversation. And finally, there is the exit. A good social engineer covers their tracks to avoid suspicion. They might thank the victim or make the interaction feel casual to ensure they don't question what just happened. Being aware of these stages can help you disrupt attacks early. Now, let's look at the different types of social engineers. Each type has unique tactics tailored to specific goals. Intelligence gatherers, for example, are like detectives. They collect bits of information through casual conversations or subtle observations. These are details that might seem harmless, but are valuable in the right context. Hackers are a hybrid type. They combine technical skills with social engineering to breach systems. Think of a hacker using pretexting to obtain a password and then exploiting it to access sensitive data. Impersonators take a different route, assuming false identities to gain trust. They might pose as delivery personnel or a fellow employee to access restricted areas. And finally, we have scam artists, the classic conmen of the digital age. They use elaborate schemes, often involving financial fraud, to manipulate victims. Understanding these profiles helps us anticipate their moves and spot red flags. Social engineering has evolved with technology. So let's start with social media exploitation. People often overshare online, posting details about their workplace, routines, or even birthdays. Attackers mine this data to craft personalized attacks, making their schemes feel authentic and targeted. Then we have AI-powered attacks. AI enables attackers to create realistic phishing emails, deepfake audio, or even chatbot interactions that mimic human behavior. Speaking of deepfakes, this technology is a game changer. Imagine receiving a video call that looks and sounds like your CEO instructing you to make a wire transfer. It's scary how convincing these attacks can be. The takeaway here is that while technology gives us incredible tools, it also provides attackers with new ways to deceive us. Staying informed about these trends is critical. Let's explore the real-world consequences of social engineering. First, there are financial losses. For individuals, this might mean stolen credit card details or drained bank accounts. For companies, it can result in massive fraud or costly ransomware payments. Next is the threat of data breaches. Social engineering often serves as the entry point for larger attacks, like stealing login credentials to access sensitive corporate data. And then there is reputational damage. Falling victims to a social engineering attack can erode trust, not just with customers, but with partners and stakeholders. And finally, there is operational disruption. A compromised system can lead to downtime, affecting productivity or even critical services. The ripple effects of these attacks are enormous, highlighting why we need to stay vigilant. How can we spot these attacks before they succeed? The first clue is unusual requests. If you're asked for sensitive information out of the blue or in an urgent tone, it's a red flag. Always pause and verify. Then there are verification difficulties. If someone is evasive or their story doesn't check out, it's worth digging deeper. Look for inconsistencies in communication. For example, does the email address match the supposed sender? Is the language or tone suspicious? And finally, pay attention to emotional manipulation. If a message stirs up strong emotions like fear or curiosity, it's designed to make you act impulsively. By staying alert to these signs, you can stop social engineering attacks in their tracks. Now that we know the risks, let's talk defenses. First, employee training is key. Regular sessions on identifying and reporting social engineering attempts can make your team the first line of defense. And people need to feel empowered to question suspicious requests. Next, enforce security policies. Simple practices like verifying requests for sensitive information or requiring dual approval from transactions can prevent many attacks. And then there are technical controls. Multi-factor authentication, email filters, and monitoring tools, they all add extra layers of security. And remember, the human element is both the weakest link and the strongest line of defense. A culture of awareness and vigilance makes all the difference. Human behavior plays a huge role in cybersecurity. Let's start with decision-making processes. People make countless security-related decisions every day, often under pressure. Understanding these processes helps us design systems and training that support better choices. And next is risk perception. How do people evaluate threats? Some might underestimate phishing risks, thinking it could never happen to them. And then there is habit formation. Positive security habits like regularly updating passwords can be cultivated through consistent reinforcement. And lastly, cultural influences matter. An organization's culture impacts how seriously employees take security. If leadership prioritizes cybersecurity, employees are more likely to follow suit. Creating a culture of security awareness is essential. Social engineering isn't inherently bad. It depends on how it's used. For example, ethical uses include security audits and awareness training, where companies hire experts to test and educate employees. But on the flip side, it can lead to identity theft, fraud, or even corporate espionage. The line between legitimate and malicious use often comes down to intent and consent. As security professionals, it's our responsibility to use these techniques ethically and transparently. Educating people about these nuances ensures we are part of the solution and not of the problem. Let's finish by looking at where social engineering is heading. AI-enhanced attacks will become more personalized and harder to detect, making traditional defenses less effective. Then there is VR/AR exploitation. As virtual and augmented reality becomes mainstream, attackers will find new ways to manipulate these spaces. And finally, biometric spoofing is on the rise. As we rely more on biometrics for authentication, attackers are finding ways to fake fingerprints, facial recognition, and even iris scans. Staying ahead of these trends requires constant vigilance and adaptation. The best defense against social engineering is a strong security culture. It starts with leadership commitment. When executives prioritize cybersecurity, it sets the tone for the entire organization. And then, invest in continuous education. Threats evolve, and so should our defenses. Use positive reinforcement to encourage good security behaviors. For example, reward employees who report phishing attempts. And don't forget incident response drills. Regular simulations ensure your team knows what to do in case of an attack. A security-aware culture isn't built overnight, but it's one of the most effective tools against social engineering. To wrap up, social engineering preys on human vulnerabilities, leveraging psychological manipulation and advanced technologies. We've covered the core tactics, the psychology behind them, and the countermeasures to stay protected. Remember, training, strong policies, and a security-aware culture are your best defenses. As threats evolve, so must our strategies. So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay vigilant.